Hi students, welcome to another lecture in the CSIR-NET Life Sciences series by Utkalp Digital Classes. I am Richa, I am your mentor for this course and I am here to make biology easy for you. Today I am going to deal with intracellular vesicular transport. I am going to deal with exocytosis, endocytosis, types of endocytosis, that is receptor mediated or clathrin mediated endocytosis, phagocytosis and pinocytosis. So the first topic in intracellular vesicular transport is exocytosis. But before that, let me tell you what vesicular transport actually means. So vesicular transport refers to the movement of materials within the cell in vesicles. Now these vesicles may originate in any part of the cell, be it the plasma membrane, be it Golgi or be it lysosomes. Also, the direction of transport of these vesicles may be outside the cell or may be inside the cell. Now coming to exocytosis, it is a form of bulk transport. When I say bulk transport, I mean that a bulk of materials is transported. Lot of materials are transported together. It is a form of bulk transport wherein large amounts of materials are released out of the cell. A vesicle forms around the materials. Whatever materials are there in the cell which have to be expelled out, those materials are packaged into vesicles, and these vesicles then carry these materials towards the plasma membrane. Once the vesicle reaches the plasma membrane, as you can see here in the figure, so once this vesicle reaches the plasma membrane, the membrane of the vesicle and the plasma membrane, they fuse together. First, the outer membrane of the vesicle and the inner leaflet of the plasma membrane fuses together, and later the inner membrane of the vesicle, so this membrane and the outer leaflet of the plasma membrane, they fuse together, leading to continuation of the membranes, and this is how the materials are expelled out of the cell. The vesicles fuse with the help of tethering proteins. So there are some proteins that facilitate the interaction of the vesicle with the target, and these proteins are called tethering proteins. So there are two types of tethering proteins. One is fibrous tethering protein and the other is globular tethering protein. First, the fibrous tethering protein extend. All the fibrous tethering proteins, they will extend, they will expand their 3D structure and pull the vesicle towards the target membrane. So once the vesicle is pulled towards the target membrane, then the globular tethering proteins come into play, and these form a multi-protein complex. So the multi-protein complex is formed by the globular tethering proteins, and these hold the vesicle next to the target membrane. So the role of the fibrous tethering protein is to pull the vesicle towards the target, and the role of the globular tethering protein is to hold the vesicle next to the target membrane so that proper fusion can occur. Now, how does the fibrous tethering protein know which vesicle to attach to? This is a very important question. There is a protein which is a GTP binding protein. The wrap protein on the vesicle is recognized by the fibrous tethering protein. It is a GTP binding protein, or it is a GTPase. So this GTPase, called as RAB, is present on the surface of the vesicle, and this is recognized by the fibrous tethering proteins. Once fibrous tethering proteins recognize this RAB protein, they come and bind to the vesicle and they pull the vesicle towards the target. Now, once the vesicle and the target are brought closer, two other proteins come into play. These are V snares and T snares. These are called the snare proteins in general. V stands for vesicle and T stands for target. So V snares are present on the membrane of the vesicle, and the T snares are present on the membrane of the target. Mind you, children, the tethering proteins are different from the snare proteins. Snares are not same as the tethering proteins. The tethering proteins come into play first. The first role is played by the tethering proteins by bringing the vesicle and the target closer, and later the role of the snare protein starts. So V-snare is present on the membrane of the vesicle. It is recruited in the vesicle at the time of budding, when the vesicle was budding from its origin position. That time V-snares were recruited. And V-snares are exposed when the coat protein leaves. So when does the coat protein leave? So suppose this is the origin of the vesicle. A vesicle is being formed here. When the vesicle is being formed, then certain proteins will come and sit here, and these proteins will be V-snares. And over this vesicle, coat protein will come and sit. Once the vesicle buds off, the vesicle is lying free in the cytoplasm. This is when the coat protein leaves. The coat protein is disassembled from the vesicle and it leaves in the cytoplasm. But the V-snares are still attached to the vesicle. These V-snares are now exposed. Now this vesicle will go and fuse with the target with the help of the V-snares present on the vesicle and the T-snares present on the target membrane. I'll just teach you how this interaction occurs. The T-snares are present on the membrane of the target and they are complementary to the V-snares. Now, the interaction of the V-snare on the vesicle and the T-snare on the target forms a structure which brings the two membranes in close proximity. Which two membranes am I talking about here? The membrane of the vesicle and the membrane of the target. This process is called zipping. Look at this figure here. Can you see this vesicle? So this vesicle has a V-snare protein and the target membrane has T-snares. Now there are 3 alpha helices in a T-snare, whereas there is 1 alpha helix in a V-snare. So 1 from the V-snare and 3 from the T-snare. These alpha helices come closer, they interact as they are complementary, and they form something called as a coiled coil structure. Due to this formation of this coil structure, the two membranes, the membrane of the vesicle and the membrane of the target are brought closer to each other, and this the formation of this coil structure is called zipping. This process is called zipping. Now, what will happen? This coil structure will create a tension between the two membranes. So, due to this tension, hemifusion will occur. What do I mean by hemifusion? Hemifusion means fusion of one of the leaflets of the two membranes. So first, one of the leaflets, one leaflet from the target and one leaflet from the vesicle fuse together. This is called hemifusion. And due to hemifusion, a void space will be created in between. Can you see this void space here? Now, this void space is energetically unfavorable. So due to the tension that is created because of the coil structure and due to the energetically unfavorable void space, the other two membranes are also brought together and the other two membranes fused together. Sorry, not membranes, the other two leaflets. Ultimately, complete fusion creates a fusion pore. Can you see a continuous area here? The cytoplasm of the vesicle and the outside of the this target is continuous with each other. Now when this pore is created, the contents of the vesicle are delivered outside or they are delivered to the target. Here you can see complete fusion of the vesicle with the target membrane, and once complete fusion occurs, all the contents are released outside the cell in case of exocytosis, and that is when the complete fusion occurs and the contents are delivered outside the cell, these coil structures will be disassembled. Now coming back, I already told you, even after the fusion, the coil structure remains intact and has to be uncoiled. Now, how is it uncoiled? It is done by a protein called NSF protein, and NSF protein is an ATPase. That means it requires ATP hydrolysis for its activity. So once the fusion has occurred, the materials have been delivered outside the cell, then this NSF protein will come and sit near the coil structure, and then ATP hydrolysis will occur, and that is when the NSF protein will work and it will uncoil the snares. So the uncoiled snares are recycled back to their originating membranes due to the presence of retrieval tags on them. Remember the last lecture we studied about retrieval tags? These tags are important to bring back the proteins which are, the ER proteins which are by mistake packaged into vesicles. These proteins are brought back due to the presence of these retrieval tags. So similar to those proteins, here also, since the V snares and the T snares have to be brought back to the originating, so the V snare has to be brought back to the origin organelle from where the vesicles were originating. So V snares again have to be recruited to new vesicles. So these V snares are brought back to the origin organelle through retrieval tags on them. Now, many known pathogens are known to target these snare proteins. For example, the tetanus and botulism toxins. These are actually enzymatic proteases that cut off these snares. So these pathogens, when they enter our body, they release certain toxins. These toxins enter the cell. These toxins are nothing but enzymatic proteases. They cut off the snares from the vesicle as well as the target. Some toxins might target V snares, some might target T snares. So they cut off these snares. As a result, what happens? The vesicle and the target fusion never occurs. For example, in case of neurotransmitter fusion, if you cut off the V snare and the T snare, the neurotransmitter fusion will never occur at the synapse, and it will lead to paralysis of muscles because muscle contraction will never occur. This we have already discussed. Now let's come to another type of transport in the cell, that is endocytosis. It is a process in which particles or materials enter into the cell through the plasma membrane. So for endocytosis to occur, what is the site of endocytosis? It is the plasma membrane. So the plasma membrane wraps around the material and engulfs it. The plasma membrane extends, wraps around the material and engulfs it. There are three types of endocytosis. The first one is phagocytosis, in which large solid particles are engulfed. Then there is pinocytosis, in which there is engulfment of extracellular fluid. And the third type is the receptor-mediated endocytosis, where engulfment of extracellular materials is dependent upon the recognition by cell surface receptors. Now, receptor-mediated endocytosis is also called clathrin-dependent endocytosis or clathrin-mediated endocytosis due to the involvement of the clathrin coat protein. Here, the adapter proteins involved are AP1, AP2, AP3 depending upon which organelle the vesicles are targeted to. So, receptor-mediated endocytosis, I already told you, is a process by which cells absorb metabolites, hormones, proteins by inward budding of the plasma membrane. How this is occurring? Look at the figure here. There is a cell surface receptor which recognizes this ligand. This is the ligand. As soon as the ligand is recognized by the receptor, an adapter protein is recruited. The adapter protein here is AP2. AP2 is composed of several subunits: alpha adaptin, beta 2 adaptin, mu 2 chain and sigma 2 chain. Now once this adapter is recruited, it further recruits the coat protein. Here in the blue color you can see clathrin coat protein being recruited by the adapter. So the adapter and the coat protein and the receptor interact through the adapter protein. They are never in physical contact, but they are in contact with each other due to the presence of the adapter protein. Now, Due to the recruitment of the coat protein, this curvature comes in the vesicle, in the plasma membrane, and a vesicle forms. Due to this curvature brought about in the plasma membrane due to the recruitment of the coat protein, a vesicle kind of a structure forms, which further grows and buds off from the cell membrane. When this vesicle buds off, the coat protein is disassembled. Further, the adapter is disassembled. Only the ligand and the receptor remains in the vesicle. And this vesicle goes and fuses with the fuses with already existing endosomes, or it becomes an early endosome of its own. Now, this is strictly mediated by cell surface receptors. I already told you, only receptor specific ligands enter the cell through the formation of an endosome. Clathrin, a coat protein, assists in the formation of vesicles in receptor mediated endocytosis. There is another type of receptor mediated endocytosis in the cell. There is another type of coat protein which is involved, but we are not going to study it here. It is called the caveolin coat protein. We are going to study about it in later chapters, later lectures. So once the vesicle is formed, how does it bud off? How does it cleave? We did not study about it till now. There are certain proteins that are involved in the budding of the vesicle, the cleaving of the vesicle from the plasma membrane. Actually, the cleaving of the part of the plasma membrane which has formed the vesicle. So there is a protein involved which is called the dynamin protein. It comes and surrounds the neck of the vesicle, where it forms a ring-like structure at the neck of the vesicle. And this ring-like structure is formed by dynamin, but it is also assisted by actin filaments. So dynamin and actin work together to form this ring-like structure. Now dynamin polymerizes around the neck of the vesicle, and the polymerization of dynamin, the formation of the ring by the dynamin protein causes GTP hydrolysis. I did not tell you, dynamin is a GTP binding protein. So dynamin is always bound to a molecule of GTP. When the dynamin ring polymerizes around the neck of the vesicle, GTP hydrolysis occurs, which leads to tighter polymerization. So see, this is the plasma membrane and this is the vesicle which is being formed. When dynamin comes, this neck is surrounded by the dynamin ring. There are actin filaments here and there. These actin filaments help the dynamin ring polymerization around the neck of the vesicle, and ultimately, when the ring has formed, the GTP gets hydrolyzed from dynamin and the ring polymerization becomes tighter and tighter. That is when the vesicle is cleaved from the plasma membrane. Now, once the neck of the vesicle is cleaved, the coat protein disassembles. Coat protein here is clathrin. Now, let's look at the structure of clathrin. Clathrin is a triskelion structure. That means it has 3 heavy chains and 3 light chains. Here in the figure, can you see the heavy chains and light chains of clathrin? The ones marked in green color are the heavy chains. The ones marked in orange color are the light chains. So there are 3 heavy chains and 3 light chains, and the entire structure that is formed is called a triskelion. At the end of the 3 heavy chains, there is a globular head. This portion of the clathrin molecule, the end of the heavy chain, is a globular head, and this is the part which interacts with the adapter protein. See the adjoining figure. This is a clathrin lattice surrounding a budding vesicle. Can you see the dynamin ring protein here? This is the dynamin ring protein. This is the 3D clathrin coat which assembles just outside the vesicle. Now, this is the cargo. Imagine this is the extracellular space, and this is the cytoplasm. Now what happens? This is the plasma membrane, the bilayer of the plasma membrane. The cargo comes, and the cargo is recognized by the receptor, the cell surface receptor here. Further, once the cargo is recognized by the cell surface receptor, the receptor recruits the adapter protein. Here in this violet color is shown the adapter protein, which is AP2 here. Once the adapter is recruited, the adapter brings the clathrin molecules near the receptor. So the adapter binds to the globular head of the clathrin molecule here. Can you see these heads binding to these adapter proteins? So these globular heads of the clathrin molecules bind to the adapter protein, and in turn this connects the receptor and the clathrin molecule. The receptor and the clathrin molecule are never connected physically. They are connected to each other with the help of this adapter protein. And this is how several clathrin molecules are recruited towards the inner side of the plasma membrane, and due to these clathrin molecules there is a curvature in the plasma membrane, which ultimately leads to the formation of the vesicle. Further, when the vesicle forms, dynamin protein comes and assembles at the neck of the vesicle. This dynamin protein is a GTP binding protein. Once the dynamin ring is fully assembled at the neck of the vesicle, GTP is hydrolyzed. This hydrolysis leads to tighter polymerization and hence cleaving of the vesicle. This is assisted by actin filaments. This was the whole process. Now when the vesicle is cleaved off, it becomes an endosome, or it fuses with certain pre-existing late endosomes. This was all for the intracellular vesicular transport. The next lecture I am going to cover lysosomes, their function, structure and the diseases associated with lysosomes. Once I complete lysosomes, I will move on to peroxisomes, glyoxysomes and so on. Stay tuned to the next lecture and please subscribe to Utkalp digital classes for the latest content. Thank you.